Good morning. My name is Marty Breverman. I'm the present chairman of the Eric's Club. Those of you who don't know what Eric's Club is, it's a group of alumni that we have some distinguished alumni, which we happen to have here today. Thank you all for coming. And we're pleased we have a great alum that's going to be speaking in just a little while. I'd like to introduce who's going to introduce our guest lecturer today, Ricky Obery. And Ricky's going to come up and tell you a little bit about our latest inductee.
Didn't these when I was in school? Okay. That's better. Okay, so today we have Mark Hellrung, who's a 19-something graduate a few years ago, a little bit before me.
Got your back on it.
So before I start, I'll tell you, I love coming to these lectures. I mean, it's just overwhelming because you have this whole titan of industry sitting right there. So that's just the best thing for me. Even though they included me in it, I don't know why, but that's fine. So a little project for you. I went to Wikipedia Isidore Sharp at some point because that'll tell Mark's story a little bit more and how the Four Seasons was developed. So Mark is the general manager of the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. Let's have a look. What I asked him. So one thing I asked him was, I said, could you tell me something unique about yourself that you never told anybody or that you don't generally share? Those of you remember when I was a speaker, it was I won a champion baby ship. Mark apparently had very long sideburns, and so I said, can you send me a picture? And he said, I threw them away. I'm like, yeah, okay. So, you know, the internet, we can find anything. So there you go.
You're Wolverine, huh?
I know.
And that's now all around the Four Seasons too. So we what's the new, flickered it or photoshopped it or something. We did something with it, so it's all over the place. Twittered it. Anyway, so Mark's here today. He's the general manager of the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. The unusual thing about this property, it has no casino. It sits above the Mandalay Bay and it has no casino. So definitely he has to really look and to get his revenues to where he wants them without casino funds, which I'm sure is very challenging. The building was built about 15 years ago. It was embedded a brand within a brand, so it's up on top of the Mandalay Bay. So I'm not going to take all day. He's here with his wife and mother today, wife Loretta and Mother Mary, so thanks for joining us. And hopefully Mark is now he's going to tell you his story rather than I tell you the whole thing. So he's going to now, one thing he did tell me, he was very happy to meet me and engage us, and he did say, and Doug reiterated this yesterday, that from now on, when you want to go to the Four Seasons, I have his cell number. And my wife is already going to hit him up for the Four Seasons George Sang.
George Sang, absolutely.
Yes, yes. We do want to
start at the top.
Yeah,
right.
So we did stay there, and it was $1,600 a night, and we couldn't even afford to turn the shower on. So next time it's going to be on here. So anyway, so Mark is going to engage us. He's going to entertain us, and more than anything else, he's going to inspire you. So let me introduce Mark.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Now, if I do this correctly, which is questionable, right? This one. And from the beginning, there was blackness. Anyways, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here today, and it's such an honor to be invited to speak to this group. You know, when you think of it, it's a big deal for me. You know, one of the items on my bucket list, one of the things I've always wanted to do, and when I was general manager here for 7 years, I had a chance to come into this very room and speak as well. But first of all, I'd like to just recognize really all the students who came this morning. I know this is optional, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm very honored by your presence, because I don't know how many optional classes I attended, or optional speakers, when I was in your seat, so thank you very much. It's great to have all the faculty members here. Dean Bowen, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Eric Club members, and my mom, better known as Miss Mary. You know, without you, I wouldn't be standing here, so thank you very much. And my lovely wife, Loretta, and my life partner. Thank you so much. So, what I'd like to do is to start off this morning with a little quote. Kind of set the stage for what we're going to speak about. So we must let go of the life that we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us. I was trying to think of something I think which might be relevant for you at this point. And so when I reflected back on my time at U of H, which was 91 to 91 to 96, you know, I thought that this would be a good place to start. So, you know, along the way, you'll find things that you really connect to. And I call them the rules of the road. Because the rules of the road, really it's all about choices. And what I want to share with you along the way is some stories of situations that I've encountered, people that I've come across, and what I learned from that. And so I've just called them rules of the road. Because along the road, we all have an opportunity to make a choice. Right? We can go this way, or we can go that way. And so hopefully you find some value in these rules of the road. This is my story. There's many, many stories, and you've heard them from other Eric's Club members, so this is only my story, and it's a pleasure to be able to share it with you. And hopefully you find some similarities. All right, starting at the beginning. I come from a family of 8. Right, Mom? Okay, all right. I got the number right. The other day I was practicing, I got the wrong number. So I come from a family of 8. I have 5 younger sisters. Oh, okay. 5 younger sisters. And to top that off, we grew up in a house that had 1 bathroom. All right, 1 bathroom. All right. That was interesting. So, get up and get out of the house is my motto. So. But you know, it was funny because that's where I learned my first rule of the road. And it all goes back to the beginning, and it's the golden rule. And it really is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's something that we all started with. We probably thought it was pretty trite, you know, and overdone. It really doesn't apply and all that stuff. But what's interesting now, after having worked in this business for a few years, I'm now with a company, Four Seasons Hotel, and guess what? One of the key platforms of this company is the golden rule. And we try really, really hard to make sure in our discussion about difficult decisions we're going to make that we apply this golden rule. So it's kind of interesting. It starts with Mom and goes all the way around the world, and it comes back to the golden rule, which is now one of the Four Seasons cornerstones. All right, so let me fast forward to 1971. I'm a U of H student. Right? I've come from Columbus, Texas. Big city, 3,000 people. Some of you may know of it. Went to a high school that no longer exists called Bishop Forrest High School in Schulenburg. My graduating class had a sum total of 50 people. But only 49 graduated, so there was one that didn't quite make it. So I landed here and I was unfocused. I was unmotivated, and I had an enormous amount of parental pressure. Not from Mom, but from my dad. So what my dad did when I was 6 years old, he moved us all from Houston, and they actually attended college here. They went to the University of Houston. And they moved out to Columbus, Texas, where my dad bought a pharmacy. And he's deciding, what is he going to name the pharmacy? Well, the pharmacy sat on a corner in a small town. I'm the firstborn boy. And guess what happened? Mark's Corner Pharmacy. I'm 6 years old, got my name over the pharmacy, and one day this will all be yours in a town of 3,000. And it was, you know, I just struggled. So we all worked in this pharmacy coming up. We all, you know, took some time, but I was pre-pharmacy initially because I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, and anybody relate to that as a freshman? I met a lot of freshmen there, yeah, Doug. Yeah, we still don't know what, we're just kind of putting one foot in front of the other and keep going, right? Unfocused, unmotivated, but okay, I'll do pre-pharmacy. So I got into college here, pre-pharmacy, and I didn't like it. I was an okay student, but I just didn't like it. And so if you don't like something, what do? Let's get through it quickly. So I'm a freshman. 2 semesters, I go through the summer, right? Go to sophomore, right? I go through the summer, and I sped it up, and I burned out. The last class I took was in the summer, was organic chemistry. Oh, Okay. Now, picture this. It's organic chemistry on a Saturday afternoon in June, and it goes from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and all my friends are going down to Galveston and go to the beach. Right? The other part of this story is that if your project didn't come about properly, you got to do it all over again. So we didn't get off at 2 o'clock, sometimes 5 or 6 o'clock, because the experiment had to work. So I was trying to speed up. I burned out. I took organic chemistry, and I dropped out. I said, I'm done. It's just not what I wanted to do. I just couldn't get myself together. So here I am. Now I really don't have a focus because I'm not in college. I don't know what I want to be. And I hear from someone that over at the student union, they have this thing called an aptitude test. Anybody heard of this aptitude test? All right? So they said, so you go over there and you take 3 hours worth of, would you rather be this, 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 or this? How do you like that, 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 or that? Do you like indoors or outdoors? I think it asked me everything except what my favorite color was. And it was 3 hours long. It went on page after page after page. And so at the end, I give it back to the counselor. He says, we'll be in touch with you shortly. He said, this is the beginning of the computer age. This stuff used to take 30 days to get the results back. And you, my friend, are going to have it back in 2 weeks. Well, that's great, I only have 2 weeks to worry about this. So here I am, I get the call, and I go in and I'm sitting there, and the student advisor is sitting across from me. He's beaming, he's feeling great, and he said, I think we've got an answer for you. You took 3 hours of testing. We really, really know what it is that you like. And so he pushes this piece of paper across the desk at me. It's actually 2 pages. And I'm reading through the beginning. It says you like this better than that. You like the other thing better than this thing. You like to be outdoors better than indoors. You like to be active, right, and so on and so on. And I'm reading, okay, where's the answer? And so I flip it over to the second page. I'm reading down through. And after 3 hours of testing, hundreds and hundreds of questions shoved through a computer for 2 weeks while it chewed on it, it came out and said, you should be a forest ranger. I'm going, what? And I envision myself on the top of this thing, overlooking hundreds of acres of forest land, waiting for a fire to break out, right? I just, oh no, what am I going to do? Just what am I going to do, right? But it was, when you think of it and you reflect back on it, right? The rule of the road that I learned at that time is don't worry too much, right? I was a great worrier. When I was a freshman, I had to know what I was going to be. I had to know what my future was going to be. When I was a sophomore, I just had this need to know everything that was going to happen to me. And looking back, it's like, don't worry too much. It's all going to work out. It's going to be fine. All right? And I really try to impart that message to as many people as I can, because we take the weight of the world on ourselves. And I should have been a forest ranger, and now I guess one day when I retire from the hotel business, I'll go in the forest. I don't know. But don't worry too much. Okay, so I decide I don't want to be a forest ranger, but I got to make some money. So I'm out there working, and a friend of mine says, hey, you should go to, I'm driving a school bus, right? You want to drive a school bus? But what? Why not? I'm not making any money right now. Let's go. He said, anybody here from the Spring Branch Independent School District? Yes, okay. All right, I used to drive your bus. Or your parents' bus. All right. But my friend said, they don't hire people with long hair. I said, well, I guess I can't go because I'm not cutting my hair. And I had hair down to here. It was cool. I had sideburns down to here. All right. They used to call me Burns because I had these long sideburns. I had hair down here. I had a ponytail going on. It was pretty neat, right? No, I was cool, right? But he said you can't get hired by the Spring Branch Independent School District as a bus driver unless you do something with your hair. So go get a wig, shove that hair up underneath that wig, put that wig on, go interview, they'll hire you. Well, that's the weirdest thing I ever heard. But I needed the money, so I went, and guess what? I interviewed, and I got hired. Wow, you never know, right? So I did that for a while, and then I had a fellow who was also driving a bus for the Spring Branch Independent School District. And he says, you know what, you may want to look at going down to Union Station, which is now the front entrance of the baseball park. He said, the Southern Belt and Terminal Railroad is hiring clerks and dispatchers. So I don't know, but it paid more money than I was making now, so I went down there. You have to take a typing test. Oh gosh, you know. Well, this is great, because when I was a senior, I played football, and guess what? All the football players took typing because it gave no homework. I got it. You know, it's like riding a bike. I can type. So I pass it. I go into this office. They train me for 2 weeks to be a clerk. I'm doing fine, and I'm helping out in the office. It's a union thing. I can call in sick. I can, you know, whatever it is I wanted to do. And on the desk next to me was a salt-to-the-earth lady. Her name was D. Alice Munger. Now, D. Alice Munger was fairly large. All right? And she had been calling train crews for 30 years in and out of Houston. She was the dispatcher. And she went to retire. And somebody said, would you like to qualify for that job? I said, well, it pays more than I make right now. Okay, I'll go qualify for that job. So she trained me for a week. She retired, and I started doing her job. Now, D. Alice Munger had been doing this job since before there were telephones. And she had to ride her bike all the way down to where the crews were staying, and she'd go up there in the middle of the night and go, Jack, wake up, Jack. Wake up, Jack, your train's leaving at 7 o'clock. Boy, you are lost like a ball in tall grass. I can still hear her talk, and she had all these sorts of sayings. So here I am, you know, she knows everybody, she knows everything, and I trained for her job. And a week after she leaves, I'm making the same money she's making after 30 years of her doing it. I said, well, that's pretty cool, I'm making the same money. And then I thought, that's not cool at all. You know, maybe I could do more. Maybe I can do more. So anyway, so you know, then I have a roommate that says, you know, when I'm tending bar, it pays more money than the job you had. Right? Well, okay, you got me. So I went to be a bartender at the, anyone know the you know, the Westin Hotel in the Galleria? The top floor used to be a nightclub. Yep, Fernando, you know, we were there together. The top floor used to be a nightclub. That nightclub was the single largest, highest grossing beverage operation in the state of Texas. That's how busy it was. And we made a fortune up there. We had a great, great time, right? There's a lot of stories that we can't share in this group, but we had a great time there. So I went there, and you know, I was tending bar and at the Westin Oaks. It was now the Westin Oaks. At that point, it was the Houston Oaks. And you know, after a while, I said, you know, it's time for me to go back to school. You know, I've had a couple of jobs. I've seen a few things, and you know, I'm kind of liking this hotel stuff. You know, tending bar. So I come back here, and I said, well, I like to do that. And then I coupled it with an experience that we used to have when, now get this, a family of 8 would go on a vacation. All right. Family event. Now you can already see, you know, and I think I did that till I was about 14, right? And the littlest one was about 6, maybe, you know. So it was just like this. One of the things my dad would do, I remember one time in San Francisco, he really wanted to expose us to some new things. So he went to the concierge at the hotel, and how he got to the hotel concierge, I don't know, because we were driving around in a motorhome, you know, with 8 people, which is an experience in itself. And so he went to the concierge. He said, I'd like to go to a really nice French restaurant with my family, take my family there. And at 6 o'clock, I promise we'll be out by 8 o'clock. And so the concierge would make the reservation. 8 people at 6 p.m., guaranteed to be out at 8 p.m. That is the absolute best reservation in any French restaurant in the world, because you can sell that table twice. What the concierge would fail to tell the French restaurant maitre d', right, is that there were a bunch of kids coming. Now back then, you know, it was a little suit, tie, you know, the girls had Easter dresses and all that, and we would all walk up there, and you could just see that French maitre d' standing behind the podium. And the podiums back in those days about like this, and he'd look up and oh my goodness, oh man. You know, I know, my dad would say, he said, but we'll be out by 8 o'clock, you know, they're very well behaved. I don't know, you know. And I want to tell you that we got some of the finest tables in any French restaurant we went to, but they all happen to be located by the kitchen door. Never knew that the finest table in a restaurant was by the kitchen door. But one of the things that my dad required us to do is 8 people had to order 8 different appetizers. And then we would take a bite and pass around, take a bite, and then he wanted to expose us. We had 8 different entrees. So in those years that we did that, I ate a lot of escargot. I ate a lot of snails, right? Because that was on every French restaurant menu. And then let me tell you what, 5 younger sisters, they don't do snails. All right? So that plate would come back around to me. But it got me thinking about a food and beverage route. And then here we go. Conrad Inn Hilton School. I came here, I signed up, I loved it. They took all my credits from before. This was back in the early days. And I was on the 5-year plan. Anybody here on the 5-year plan? Or more? Yeah, don't worry about it, okay? Don't worry. The 4-year plan is overrated, let me tell you. A 5-year plan, that's for me. All right? Don't worry, it will work out. So here I am working with Westin Hotels. I get on their management training program, which is pretty cool, and eventually I stay with them for about 15 years in a variety of places. Now let me talk to you a little bit about luck, because luck does come into play on this. So I'm a management trainee. I'm in catering. I'm in catering the exact moment that the director of catering from Mexico City transfers to the Westin Oaks. So we're there together. Ludwig Kramer, remember that name? Okay, so Ludwig said, I'm going to write the first marketing plan for catering. Never had one, just collected the money, right? So we wrote it together, and we got pretty tight over that time. So when a banquet captain's position came up, he said, would you want to be a banquet captain? You're about to graduate your training program. I said, you know what, pays more money than what I'm making now? Sure. Right? So I went on to become a banquet captain. So in this banquet captain thing, there was another banquet captain. Now envision this. A fellow named Lars. Lars is about 6'3", blonde hair, blue eyes, Norwegian. Worked cruise ships around the world. 10 years older than me, right? Knew his wines, knew his foods. He could do flambé bananas Foster for 300 people, and not singe his eyebrows. Right? He could cut a wedding cake for 500 people and not have wedding cake all over him. Things I still can't do today. Right? Lars was my idol. Lars could have been on the front of GQ magazine, every year. I mean, he was a god. He was a Norwegian god. So Ludwig comes from Mexico, and he looks at our buffet table. He says, your buffet tables are kind of boring here. So let me buy you some new stuff on top, and let's get all this together. And, oh, by the way, I'm going to get you some lights, fluorescent lights, and I want you to put them underneath all the buffet tables. Now, he was from Mexico, right? So what color were the lights? Well, we had green, we had red, we had yellow, we had blue, right? He bought us all the extension cords and the tape to tape it down and the plugs to plug them in, and says, henceforward, from this day, I want every buffet to have lights underneath it. And I can still hear him say, so they float. They look like they float through the room. The people, they will love it. They will love it. It will be wonderful. I said, okay. So, I would come in. And, it was easy enough at the beginning. He was checking every day. And then, as great ideas go, half the guests that would come in say, what are you doing with the lights underneath the buffet? Unplug that. What do you think, we're in Mexico? So I'd unplug it. And about half the clients that would come in would say, unplug it. So Lars said, you know what, this is a terrible idea. Look how this looks. I'm not going to do that. So he did it for about a month. And then guess what happens to all great ideas like that? After about a month, guess what gets broken? The little lights get broken, the little colors are missing, the extension cords are stolen by other departments. Things happen, right? But it was still very, very important to Ludwig. So I used to come in about 10 minutes before Lars was going to come in, get all my lights together, get my buffets done, and Lars would come in and there wouldn't be anything left. But this is important to Ludwig. So guess what happened? Here I am. The assistant banquet manager position comes up. Lars is going to get it. Look at him. He's a Norwegian god, right? Of course you're going to give it to him. And I go and I said, well, I'm not even going to apply. I don't want to waste their time. So Ludwig comes to me and said, do you have an interest in being assistant banquet manager? And I said, well, yeah, but you're going to give it to Lars, and I don't want to waste your time. He said, do you have an interest in being assistant banquet manager? I said, well, yeah, but he said, if you have an interest, apply. Being a person who understands the nuances of life, I understood that. So I went and applied, and guess what? I got the job. Right? And guess what happened next? Lars quit. Right? And then I asked Ludwig, I said, why'd you give me the job? Look at you got the whole package in Lars. He said, you know what? I wanted to do a lot of changes in banquets, and I know we went through things. He said, but you were the only person who would get those lights underneath the buffet, figured it out, and always had it done for me. And Lars had nothing but excuses. He's not on my team. I can't trust him. You are on my team. I can trust you that whatever I think is important, you're going to do whether I inspect it or don't inspect it. You are now the assistant banquet manager. How about that? So what do you learn in something like that? All right? Align your goals. So rule of the road, align your goals. Now, when I was in college, I had other terms for that. What could those be? Right? Brown nosing? Right? Sucking up? Right? That's how people got promoted? No, forget all that. Align your goals with your boss, and you will go far. Right? Align your goals with your boss, and you will find that you have a lot of other time to do the things that you want to do once you get your boss's goals taken care of. So I learned that in a very, very big way, and it's something that still sticks with me now. All right, so you know what happens after that? The banquet manager moves on, and now there's an opening, right? So, my goals are aligned, I get the promotion, and here comes my first review. And in my first review, I've been preparing for this. It's my first official performance review. Guess what I have? I've got great comments from the customers. The catering people, I'm a go-to guy there. I can make things happen. The place is running like a top. I am ready for this review. So I go in there, and I'm having this review, the food and beverage director, and he says, you get it done on time. The BEOs are great. So you're upselling, doing all the things we ask. The catering people love you, all that sort of stuff. But, and let me tell you, when you hear that but, okay, sit up and listen, because something big is coming your way, and it won't look big at the time. You're going to hear but, stay with it, all right? Because that but said, for me, what you're doing is great, but how you're doing it needs some work. So what do you mean? I'm making it happen. Everything, yeah, but you're doing it regardless of the cost to your people. You're just making it happen. I said, well, that's what I'm here for, to make stuff happen, Yeah, I know, but you need to be balanced on this other side. So that's when I really learned the difference between what you do and how you do. How you do it needs to be in balance. It's not just about making sure that banquet event order came off without a hit. It was about how you did it with the team. So, here comes luck again, right? A new food and beverage director comes in, right? The new food and beverage director says, I'm going to transfer out 5 people. He said, I think you can do more. I think you can do more. I said, what do you think? He said, I think you can do, assistant food and beverage director. I said, I don't know anything about restaurants. He said, that's okay. The food and beverage director in this particular hotel doesn't know anything about banquets. You make a good couple. So I moved on up to Chicago. I think you can do more. So you'll find that people help you along the way, and it's time once you get into a certain situation, help others along the way. Just you will see things in people that work for you that nobody else can, and the person that's working can't see it for themselves. Help others along the way, and you will see that you'll be rewarded for that. It just feels good. So I had a lot of help along the way, and I'm always on the lookout now to help others. So here I am, right? I go to Chicago as assistant director of food and beverage, and I get transferred to Boston. Then I go out to a small island in Hawaii after I stop in San Francisco, and things are coming along. And then I get a call, and so I think you can do more. I think you can be a hotel manager. I said, well, I can't be a hotel manager because I don't know all these other departments. You know, I just know food and beverage. And he said, no, it's okay. He said, the people that come up to the rooms division, they don't know food and beverage, all these departments either. We think you can learn it. We think you can do more. So I became hotel manager. Went to Boston, then in San Francisco to 1,200 room St. Francis. And I stayed with Westin for 15 years. Good long stretch. Had a lot of fun, worked with a lot of great people. And then it was time to move on to other options. The rule of the road here is don't burn your bridges, right? You may think that everything that you're getting into is huge and you're not gonna have to worry about it. This is a very small community, and you will find that over time. You will find that people that you met early on in your career, the middle of your career, at the beginning of your career, like Fernando and I, you know, they're with you for the entire journey. So don't burn your bridges. Leave properly. If you're going to go, be respectful, be positive, and go on for a better opportunity. Don't burn your bridges. So, where did I go? So I joined Four Seasons in New York. So I fly to New York, and I'm interviewing with the corporate food and beverage director, and it's going well. The interview's set for an hour. First hour went well, you know. Second hour went well. Another half hour went well. It's like 2.5 hours, you know. This guy was like the Vulcan mind probe. He sucked stuff out of me in this interview that, I mean, to this day, I was wasted when I walked in. There was nothing. I was naked in front, you know. He knew everything about me. He knew stuff I didn't even know. But I did ask him some questions. Why are you talking to me? You know, this is the Pierre in New York, which is a Four Seasons. It was their flagship. I said, why are you talking to me? I said, I'm from outside the company. It doesn't make any sense. And he said, well, you know, quite frankly, we've had some recent promotions, and the people that have been promoted aren't able to go again, and we have some people that aren't ready to go. And, you know, so we decided to look outside. I said, I know, but you've got, my goodness, 23 hotels. You know, surely within this 23 hotels, you've got somebody who can do this. He said, well, to be quite honest with you, the success rate for a hotel manager here is only 25%. Of the last 4 hotel managers here, only 1 went out with Four Seasons. He said, so it scares everybody. Nobody wants to come to New York. And I said, well, you know, that's kind of interesting, because it's, you know, for me, it's, you know, do I want to do this? I was doing a 1,200 room hotel in San Francisco, you know, at St. Francis for Westin. This is a 196 room hotel in New York at the top of the average rate spectrum. It was just an amazing opportunity. But I wanted to test myself. Found out later nobody in Four Seasons wanted to go. Okay? But opportunity for me. So the rule of the road here is don't be afraid of challenge. Don't be afraid that because somebody else has gone before you, was not particularly successful in that you can't do it. Have confidence in yourself. Have that ability to step into really, really tough things and embrace the challenge, and you will be fine. Right? But don't be afraid of taking on the challenging assignments. And so I did. I went to New York, and then guess what? I was in New York for some total of 11 months. And they said, so, how are you feeling about small islands? I said, well, how small? I said, 3,000 people. I think, I grew up in a town of 3,000 people. I worked out in Hawaii, on Kauai, which was pretty small, 3,000 people. And I said, what are you talking about? Oh, this island called Nevis. I said, where in the world is that? I couldn't even find it. I had to ask somebody to show it to me on the map. In the middle of the Caribbean. And guess what? It had 3,000 people there. Right? Found out later nobody else wanted to go. Right? More opportunity for me. So here I am. I go down to Nevis, and if you want to have some great hotel stories, work in the Caribbean. All right? On a small island hotel. You will have some of the best hotel stories you could ever think of. All right, I'm going to share one with you. A lot of our business came out of New York and New England, but a lot off of Wall Street. So here we are, this island of 3,000, and we had a lot of people, we called them 212s. You know what 212 is? That's a New York area code, right? We wouldn't call them New Yorkers, we call them 212s. Right? So I get this email. It's 3 pages long, single-spaced. And it comes from the assistant of the fellow who's coming down. And I can't tell you his name, and I can't tell you the company that he worked for, right? But he was the CEO of this major Wall Street firm, and let's just call him Mr. Lynch. So if you want to connect the dots, you can, all right? We're going to call this major Wall Street titan Mr. Lynch. So here it comes. I got 3 pages. Number 1, Mr. Lynch is traveling with his wife, his 1-year-old and his 2-year-old, arriving at 11:30 p.m. after departing JFK at 7 a.m. Okay? He requires the following. The Wall Street Journal, New York Times, must be on his doorstep at 7 a.m. daily. Well, the plane doesn't come in from New York till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So no way I can do that. Number 2, he requires cottage 1 upstairs, this particular suite, which happens to be the furthest from the resort. And I'm looking at that and I said, let me tell you something. Mr. Lynch, CEO, titan off of Wall Street, traveling with his wife, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and no nanny, arriving at 11:30 at night. This is not going to be good. It is not going to be good. So I called his secretary up and I said, okay, Miss Jones, I need to talk to Mr. Lynch because, he's gotten some bad advice from some other people. I stayed here and, I can fix this for him before he gets down there. She said, you give him exactly what he wants. I said, I know, but there's a lot of things in here, and this thing went on for 3 pages, and half of them, he wasn't going to like because he's traveling with his family. And so I called her again and said, you don't understand me. You're not going to talk to Mr. Lynch. You give him exactly what he wants. Okay, reading between the lines, right? She's been burned by this before, all right? And I'm about to get ignited. So I send her a fax cover, back in the days when we still had that. When's the last time anybody here did a fax? Okay, got it. A fax cover said, I understand, please, give me through to Mr. Lynch, because the things he's asking for he's not going to enjoy. No response. A couple days later, I called her again. She's getting more and more angry with me. Faxed back to her, another response. Kept a copy of this in a little file. 3rd time, sent it off to her. He was arriving Friday. It was now Wednesday. She said, you're not going to get through to him, and you give him exactly what he wants. Okay. So guess what happens? He arrives at 11:30 at night. He slept all the way down. Goes to the 2nd story of a 2-story building with no elevators. All right. After traveling from New York from 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., right? No nanny with a 1-year-old and 2-year-old and all the stuff that comes if you have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And guess what I get the next morning? An 8 a.m. call. Do you know who I am? I said, yes, sir, Mr. Lynch. I've been expecting your call. Meet me in the lobby in 10 minutes. Yes, sir, be right there. So I walk out to the lobby, and I see this fella striding across the lobby. And I know it's him, all right? There's no doubt, right? I absolutely know it's him. And I'm looking at it, so I start moving toward him across the lobby. And I extend my hand, Mr. Lynch, welcome to the Four Seasons. He says, I just met you, and already I hate you. And I said, that's a starting point. All right? So we sat on a little table off on the side, and he proceeds to tell me all this stuff, right? And so what do you think about that? This is the most outrageous. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I didn't think you were going to enjoy this. I said, so I sent your assistant, a note, and I was hoping to get a hold of you. Well, I'm a busy man. I got a lot going on. I don't always see everything. I said, I realize that. So I sent her a 2nd fax, just to be sure. And I just wanted to get in touch with you and make sure we could set this up for you and your family. Well, I was probably traveling or something. I thought so. So I sent her a 3rd fax. He said, okay, all right. You tried to get a hold of me. You couldn't. I get it. What are you going to do for me now? I said, well, I thought you might not like this suite because it's at the end of the resort and it's up. You got a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old now. I said, I got another suite ready for you. It's right over here, closer to the main building. And he goes, well, what if we don't like that suite? I said, I thought that might happen. So I have another suite on this side, right, that's ready for you, just in case your wife doesn't like that, over here. Well, so how are we going to do that? I said, you see the bellman right there? And with the cart, we're going to take you on down to, well, what if my wife's not ready? I said, I thought you might say that. I said, so here's a phone. Why don't we give her a call and get her all set up? Let us know what time you want to do this. So we went through all that. Eventually, of course, we got him settled in something really nice. And so here it is, end of his 5-day stay. And guess what Mr. Lynch is doing? Right? Is that good for him? For those of you that play tennis, right? He's playing tennis. And guess who he's playing tennis with? Right? The vice chairman of Four Seasons, who has a home in Nevis. And guess what he's doing? He's raving about his stay in Nevis. It's the most spectacular place he's ever been, and the people are so friendly. And God, I just love it. Tell all my friends to come down here. Oh, no, please. please. Okay. Please. And the vice chairman of Four Seasons, comes to see me. I don't know what you do. I deal with this guy all the time trying to finance hotels. And he is the most arrogant, obnoxious, difficult person I've ever worked with. And he's like, who is this guy? Right? Rule of the road. Okay? Stay positive. Stay positive, stay positive, stay positive. And never, ever, ever underestimate the power of choice. Just because some situation, and this is pretty extreme, I grant it, is coming at you, you have a choice on how you respond to that. Do not give up your power of choice. Don't say, well, they treated me like this, so I'm going to treat them like that. Right? No. You only do that in a boxing ring or the UFC fight or something like that, right? You don't do that. Stay positive and you can work through all of this. But it's a choice, right? Your power resides with you, and you have an opportunity to keep that power and not to give it to somebody else because they treated you unfairly or whatever. All right? So stay positive. It has always worked for me, and it continues to work, even in some of these, crazy people stories. Okay, so here I am. I'm in Nevis, right? And the GM in Houston raises his hand, and he's going to move on. And my dad has cancer, and so it's time to move back to Houston and to be part of what's going on and to go through that difficult journey. And the company works it all out for me. I'm able to get back to Houston. And while I'm here, one of the highlights is this University of Houston involvement. Truly one of the highlights of 7 years that I had here. It all started with a cold call. I got a cold call one day from a professor of marketing here, M.L. Smith, who said, hey, I understand you're an alum. Would you like to get together for a rum and coke? Because that's all he drinks, right? And I said, well, sure, 5 o'clock. And we started my relationship with the university at that time. And it's been going on for 15 years now. So truly a remarkable opportunity. And so it all started with a cold call. So during the time here, we were able to get Houston and Austin and Dallas to come together and create an endowed scholarship. And I hope somebody that you know is the recipient of the Four Seasons Endowed Scholarship, because it continues to give even to today. And it's an important part of what we are as a company. It's an important part of what we were able to put together with all the Texas properties. And it was just a really neat thing to do for all the students here. So, after 7 years, the rule of the road that I came away with is really give back. At some point in your career, you're going to be in a position to influence these things much more so than maybe early on in your career. And always give back. Like being here with you today is an opportunity for me to give back. I sat where you sat, right? I've gone through the things that you've gone through. I was, struggling, as I know a lot of you are struggling. And from time to time you get to an opportunity where you can really give back. And lecturing here today is a great opportunity for me to be able to give back. All right, so guess what happens? The president of Four Seasons calls me after I'm having a wonderful time. I mean, I've got the best life here. The Four Seasons in Houston at that time was a corporate hotel. The Road Warriors checked in Monday around lunch and checked out Friday around lunch. And I had every weekend off, and you never see a hotel, any general manager get something like that, that's as good as it gets. So I get a call from the president of Four Seasons and says, so, how are you feeling about small islands? You know, I said, you know what, Fitz, I'm doing really well here. Enjoy it, the family thing's together. I'm an hour from mom. I got 5 sisters an hour away, which can be good or bad, but you know, and I'm okay. He said, well, I may have an opportunity, you know, coming up. And I said, that's great, thank you. So about 3 weeks later, we get a call from his secretary who says, Mr. Fitzgibbons is coming to Texas, and he's going to visit Dallas and Austin and Houston. I was wondering that, you know, would you be able to have dinner with him? Oh no, here we go, right? Here we go. And it's cloaked under this, I'm going to need to visit the 3 hotels in Texas. So I have dinner with Fitz. And Fitz says, I think you can do more. Oh, no, stop with that phrase, will you? Just stop, right? I think you can do more. I got a great opportunity. It's on a small island in Hawaii. Oh, Hawaii, that's great. And so what's the name of the island? Lanai. Okay, I said, the old pineapple plantation? Yeah, there's 2 hotels there. I said, what's the population there? He said, 3,000. He's starting to see a thread here, right? So 3,000. So, you know, we go out to Lanai, and it's part of a rebranding. It's a billionaire owns the entire island. You ever hear that? 100,000 acre island. He owns the entire island, built 2 resorts, ran it himself, didn't do so good of a job, and came to Four Seasons and said, will you rebrand it? So we went out there and put together a big capital campaign, renovated the entire place, built an ocean view ballroom, retrained the staff, and rebranded it. But you know what, on an island of 3,000, where the hotels that I was managing, we were the major employer. So, and the way that works, if you have 3,000 people on a small island, there's only about 1,500 that are available to work, because the other 1,500 either too young, too old, they're retired, they work in the school, they work at the airport, all that sort of stuff. So of the 1,500, we had about 800 that we worked with. And so you really are part of the community. Everybody's related to everybody else. You will, when we were there, would never ever know how many aunties and uncles and people that had school relationships and all of that. It was just all part of the community. And when I was on this island, you know, that's when we really learned you know, becoming part of the community, giving back. You know, Loretta became part of the community. She created a 501c3. We raised money for cancer victims there. Because if you're on a small island, you got to go to Honolulu, you know, to get your cancer treatment. You are just out of luck. Pay your flight. The insurance takes care of you in Honolulu, but there's all these sorts of expenses. So she raised, you know, almost $100,000 on a small island to help out the cancer victims there, and was truly a real partner. So thank you so much for that. And so picking the right partner is critical for your long-term success. So if you pick the right partner, you're going to have a really, really good run. And then in addition to picking the right partner, you have to surround yourself with very, very smart people. All right? So the rule of the road there for me was surround yourself with smart people. And if you can, find people smarter than yourself. Because you will do so much better when you have that team around you. When I got to Lanai and they said, okay, we want you to rebrand it, I said, well, where are the manuals? Where's the guidelines? How do I do this? Oh, no, we've never done this before. Okay. What, you know, no, you can figure it out, right? Let's get this thing rebranded, and you put together the plan. So being able to assemble a really strong group of smart people around me made a huge difference. So over the years, I've said yes to the tough assignments. You know, I went to New York when nobody in the company would go to New York. I went to Nevis when nobody in the company would go to Nevis. Now, I never found that out till later. I went to Lanai, and oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, nobody wanted to go there either. And but each time I was able to say yes to these really, really tough assignments. So guess what happens? In Las Vegas, the general manager, who I thought was going to be there until the earth cooled, decided to retire. Wow. So Loretta and I looked at each other, and her mom lives there, and she's got a sister there, some cousins in Las Vegas. And I said, well, this could be kind of neat, you know, getting back with family like that. And I said, I don't know, you know, there's going to be a lot of people apply for Las Vegas. So let's go ahead. We threw our hat in the ring. There were 7 people who applied to be general manager in Las Vegas. Okay, I was one of 7. Of the 7, 2 were vice presidents. And I'm a general manager, so we kind of, right? And who's in Las Vegas, right? And the reason that I was selected to go to Las Vegas, because I did these other things for the company, and they said, you know what, if that's what you want to do, all right, here's how we need to show it in the company so that we can get other people to take that same route and take these tough assignments. So allows me to be involved in UNLV, which I'm doing now, and a rule of the road there is be true to yourself. Or excuse me, it's be a lifelong student. I missed it, sorry. Be a lifelong student. Really, you need to be a lifelong student. You're going to get yourself in a situation you have no idea how to work it out. But if you're a student of the issue, you're going to do just fine. All right? But be a lifelong student. Don't think that it stops when you finish here, because it doesn't. Yeah? And if you really want to be successful, you'll be into different sort of environments and different sort of assignments. And if you go in there, I'm going to be a student of this particular issue, you are going to do just fine. So be true to yourself. Work hard. You will make your own luck if you're true to yourself and you work hard. And never, ever, ever forget that this is a competition. Right? Right now, you're in competition with yourself for your GPA, right? You know, and you're looking at, I've got to have this GPA, I've got to have that if I want to work with this other. When you get out, guess who you're in competition with? Every other management trainee. Then you get to be an assistant manager, and you're in competition with every assistant manager. Then you get to be a department. You're in competition with every department head, and so on and so on. And then guess what? You get to be a general manager somewhere, and guess what? You're in competition with every other general manager and a couple of vice presidents. It never, ever ends. It's always a competition, and never forget that. So just to wrap up, I think is always walk through life as if you have something new to learn, and you will. If you keep your mindset open and you keep moving forward and you say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to learn it. You know, I'm constantly, what happens behind is basis for your new learning, right? Don't get stuck with what happened behind. Keep looking forward and always be a lifelong student, and you're going to do just fine. And at the end of this, guess what happens, right? You get invited to a lot of cocktail parties. I swear, okay? A lot of fun cocktail parties, because you will have some of the best stories of anybody in that bunch. Right? And people love to hear the stories. And I hope you've enjoyed this morning, and I hope I've been able to add some value to this past hour. And good luck, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marty. Okay.
We have
Thank
time
you.
for a couple questions
Sure.
if anybody wants
Sure,
to
sure.
ask. Mark?
Is that- Are we good? Yeah.
Mark,
Okay. Yes.
With your career at the Four Seasons, you probably hosted a number of foreign dignitaries and/or presidents. Could you kind of go through that? And if you have a favorite story about one of them, we'd be happy to hear.
Yeah, I've probably had in the hotels that I've been just about every president and every past president, because either they came through when they were campaigning and raising money, or at the end they were invited to be a guest speaker of some convention. So starting with really Bush Sr., you know, I've been involved with all of them. What was really interesting was Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton would come in to a hotel, and it actually happened here at the Four Seasons in Houston. And the way they do it, they bring you through the back of the house, and they pipe and drape off the route for the president. So he gets out of the car, and you just pipe and drape him all the way to the ballroom. And that's what they were doing back then. And you would find all these fellows that were in jumpsuit, zippered, right? With this little blue bag that was about that long, right? And it made a lot of clanking noise, right? And that was, when these guys crouch down and unzip that bag, the Secret Service gets on the floor, all right? These are some tough people that are protecting the president. So anyways, so here it is. He goes into the ballroom, he does his speech, raises a lot of money, and he's on the way out. And this, and I mean, literally, you're going through every employee area, and the employee's just on the other side of the curtain. And all of a sudden, he's making his move, he's coming along, and he pushes the curtain apart, and he goes and he starts shaking hands. The Secret Service went crazy. They went crazy. You know, he's off script, right? So now they're on heightened alert, right? Because he tended to do that. He just drove them crazy. So we get him into the loading dock that had an outside gate that led out to the street. And that's why they liked it, because they could pull the limo in, close the gate, do your thing, come back down, get in a limo, raise the gate, go out, life is good. Right? So here he is, and he's getting back, he's in the limo, the Secret Service hits the button, the gate starts coming up, and it stops right here. You want to see some people panic, right? It's when you have this much of a steel gate open, and you can, you know, if they think the worst, you know, nice place to lob a grenade in or something like that, all sorts of things. It went ballistic. I've never seen anything like it. And we just got, I don't know, probably 15 people over there, and we all grabbed a piece of the gate and we pushed it up high enough. Now this gate hasn't broken in 15 years, right? But it definitely is going to break right then. So that was one of the most interesting stories. So, but you'll be engaged with a lot of VIPs, and you'll see people. What I always saw, what was interesting is that often the public persona was very different from the private persona. When these guys got on stage, man, they were on stage, and Bill Clinton was one of the best, right? When he was off stage, it was a little bit different, right? So it was interesting to see the differences. But thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
You've been through a lot of different interview processes. What kind of advice would you give us for doing interviews and maybe for a job that we're not really that qualified for?
I think, yeah, good question. I think, you know, number one, start with your resume. Tell your story, right? And you don't have to tell the whole story in your resume. You know, if you had 15 different jobs, you know, you may not want to tell all 15. It kind of makes you, you know, look like you can't make up your mind like I did, right? So clean your resume up and tell your story about yourself from that resume, and just practice it. I find that role playing it, and at the end of the day, particularly it depends on who you're interviewing with. But for Four Seasons, a multinational company, we want people that are willing to go anywhere, do anything. You tell me, I'm going to put myself in your hands, and you, whatever it is. I've got a college education. You can teach me what else I need to know. All right, but I'm your person, and just go in there and be confident. So, yes.
In the earlier part of your lecture, you mentioned it's important not to worry too much. But I think, like me personally, as well as the other students, really they fret over their GPA and oh, I don't qualify for this job, or I don't know anybody. So could you tell me some more advice about don't worry too much about anything? Just kind of
Well, if you worry a lot, what'll happen is your hair will turn white and it'll fall out about here. Okay. I think it's not that you don't worry. You know, it's like there's levels of all of this stuff, right? You need to be concerned that you have a good GPA, right? And for us in Four Seasons, if you're over a 3.0, that's great. If you're 3.0 and you have some work experience, that's better. If you're 3.0 with work experience and being involved in other student organizations, you know, where there's a lot of gray, you know, there's really no black and white, even better, right? So it's all a level of degrees. Now, if you're going to be a brain surgeon, you better be a 4.0. Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to ask one more question.
Okay.
Well, as a Four Seasons, if your Las Vegas time is always over, what all the properties, where would you like to be the next property when Las Vegas is over?
That's a good question. Where do you? Yeah, Loretta. I'll ask my wife. Take that one. You know, she's been so patient moving around with me that maybe the next one would be up to her. But as my director of security in Las Vegas says, it's okay for now. You know? So we really don't have a next spot. This is great, and we're enjoying doing it. And you never know what opportunities come your way, but we're truly enjoying what we're doing now.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty.
Before you leave, don't forget, we have a couple of things we'd like to do. Right after this today, we have in the Hall of Honor, we're going to have a Q&A session. You're welcome to all come there, and you can ask all the questions you like, and we'll just beat them up a little bit. We from Eric's Club would like, and the university would like to present Mark a plaque, and it reads,
Thank you.
Eric's Club, Mark is an Eric's Club Distinguished Chair, Alumni, obviously of today, April 4th, 2013. Hopefully you'll put this in your office.
Absolutely.
And we're very proud that you're part of the university and part of our group here, and another alum of the school. So
Thank you, Marty.
there you go.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Ricky wants to talk to you a little bit.
Yeah.
My wife has been texting me dates, so for George Sank. So that's
The George Sang.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's
of
been
course,
texting
of
me
course.
dates relentlessly, but if you just want to come.
And I had an opportunity to speak here, but it really required me to invite all of you to come to Las Vegas and comp rooms. Okay, so.
So at this point we have a little induction. This is the true induction now. So you have to trust us. You gotta trust us.
No, I don't trust
No,
you
you
at
have
all.
to trust us.
Okay.
Don't worry. We trust you. We
Yeah.
trust.
I think you can do more. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
So you have to trust us.
Okay.
Trust us. And there we go. And now you're officially a chair, I think.
Oh, thank you.
So a chair similar to this will be delivered to your home with your.
That feels pretty good.
It does, it's a
Yeah.
nice- I sit in mine every day.
Yeah, but yours rocks, right? Okay.
Actually, I got one of those. Because they'd had no money when they did mine.
That's great.
Well, thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And